Welcome to the Misbehaving in Literacy podcast, where two literacy professors explore literacy and literacy education issues through the lens of humor. We have in common a passion for helping young children become literate and empowering their teachers to do what's best for children and not what's best for administrators, state education agencies, and politicians. Today on our podcast, episode titled Bethany Goes Down Under and Into the Literacy Hobbit Hole. We're going to chat about Bethany's recent visit to New Zealand and her experiences talking with educators, literacy education faculty, and publishers, as well as her school visits. So, Bethany, talk to us about your trip, where you went, why you went, what you did, and what you saw.
Okay, yes. So I traveled to the Southern Hemisphere um let's see, when was that? Early February. So in about the end of their summer. And during about the third or fourth week of their beginning of their school year. So I'm on faculty development leave this semester, and part of that leave that I wanted to do was visit New Zealand. It's something I've wanted to do for many, many, many years, ever since I trained in reading recovery, because Mari Clay is from Auckland. And so it was a long time coming. And so I spent 5 weeks there. Um, 3 of those weeks, like you said, visiting with publishers and literacy education faculty and schools. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes over here too.
Quite
Um,
all right.
and that was fabulous. So spent 2 of those 3 weeks in Auckland. And then the last 2 weeks was spent just pure travel, traveling around the South Island. So that's a little bit about what my trip was and why I did it.
So, can you tell us a little more about the schools you visited? What stood out to you the most compared to American schools?
All right. So I had the pleasure of visiting both a city school, an urban school in Auckland, and a rural school in the Waikato region, which is about 2.5 hours south of Auckland. And fabulous visits. I would s- I would say the feel of walking into these schools was a little bit different than the many, many schools I've worked in and visited here. First of all, I think just the physical setting of both schools was very different. They're kind of the two schools had different little buildings, and they weren't built with prison blocks like a lot of our schools are here with no windows. Some of the classrooms had like two walls of windows. And the of course the even though they were in summer, it's only about upper 70s, so doors were open in every classroom, so there was like you could hear kind of some outside noise and a lovely breeze flowing through. Lots of natural light. Um, some other things that stood out that I thought were pretty cool was the morning tea, which I think is a great tradition, something that I think we should do here, where at about 10:15, 10:30 every morning, all of the children go outside, if the weather permits, and they take their snack and they put on their hats because the sun is so strong there, they have to all wear their hats. So they go outside and they just sit and chat for 15, 20 minutes. The teachers take turns and rotate who's going to watch the children, and the rest of the teachers go into the teacher lounge area and they have tea or coffee and snacks. And the principal is there, and the principal might make an announcement or two about things that are going on around the school, which is it's just a lovely community time. It's a time for all teachers to get to see each other and visit every day, which that never happened in any school where I ever worked. So, there were some teachers I'd see like 3 times a year. So just a lovely community building for both the kids and the teachers, and I can tell it really makes a difference. Um, Also, one thing I found, and these are just little things, until we get to like the literacy piece, but in the rural school, no one wears their shoes. So,
Oh, neat.
so all the kids are barefoot and the teachers are barefoot
Oh,
inside.
nice. Makes the
Um,
kid getting ready for school in the morning easier on the
yeah,
kids.
I mean they wear their shoes, but they throw them off as soon as they get inside their
Oh, oh,
yeah
okay.
their classroom. So I thought that was and I asked if that's a very common thing, and they said yes, that is very common. However, the city school I visited, the children had their shoes on. So um, the other thing that I found very interesting, I was in a classroom and one of the teachers said, "Okay, we're going to do this activity before we go swimming." And I kind of shook my head and asked my friend who brought me on the visit and said, "Wait, what? What's going on? What do you mean swimming?" And she said, "Yes, most of the schools here in New Zealand have a pool, and the children go and take a swimming lesson at school every like almost every day or when they can." The city school, they had been to the beach the day before to learn about the rips, and it's basically water safety because New Zealand is a small island surrounded by water, and there are lakes everywhere. There's water everywhere
Oh, wow.
you look. So it's just a part of the school day, which I found so interesting. These things are so interesting
Yeah.
to me. Also just the general kindness. I mean, not just the teachers, of course, but everybody else who was at the school, and the children. It's just a very their classrooms are very communal. Some of them, some of the classrooms used the Maori language for different, for like a blessing or a way to begin the day, which I thought was really, really, really neat. So that those are some of the, interesting things that stood out, other than the nitty-gritty academic
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. The main things that stood out that you don't see in American schools.
Right.
So then following up that question, what can you tell us about the literacy instruction that you observed?
Yeah, so in the rural school, I saw a small group year one lesson, which is like our kindergartners. So year one is like kindergarten year. And it was like 30-minute small group intervention lesson, mostly phonological awareness and phonics, a little bit of reading at the end of the lesson. I also saw a year one classroom phonological awareness lesson. And that was interesting too, because just in case people don't know, in New Zealand, children enter school when they turn 5. So that classroom, the year one classroom has like this classroom at this time of year, I think only had 6 children. So it'll be rolling, so as more children turn 5, and then, in a few months, like by now, she probably has 12 kids in there. I don't know. So that's something that's a little bit different. So saw that lesson, and then I also at that school saw a year 3, which is like a second grade writing lesson. And then at the city school, I watched another year 3 second grade writing lesson. I also watched a year 1, yes, a year 1 whole class phonological awareness lesson, and then a short small group kind of an intervention lesson with some phonics and reading. And then I watched a year 6, so like a fifth grade um, reading language arts lesson with vocabulary, phonics, reading comprehension, and writing. So I saw a lot of those things. And honestly, I mean, what I saw was similar to what we're seeing here. So there seem to be, they're working with structured literacy. This is their second year working with mandatory structured literacy in the classrooms, and that's what I saw. So I saw very, phonological awareness, phonics based lessons, decoding lessons, even in year six, which I thought was very interesting. So I saw. Um, most of what I saw was some isolated phonics work, isolated vocabulary work, and then a little bit of, there was like a two-page selection that they did some reading comprehension work with. So, so that piece was similar. Had I gone to New Zealand a few years back, 3, 4, 5 years, I would have seen something. I'm pretty sure I would have seen something very different. Probably
Right.
a balanced literacy approach. So there's definitely been a 180 switch there, very similar to what's going on in other English speaking countries besides ourselves, besides our own. Um, so let me think of some other things. Yeah, so isolated work, some text-based work. I was really happy to see a lot of writing.
Oh,
Um,
that's good.
yeah, I was really happy to see that that's kind of a daily thing. So the children in two classrooms I saw at different schools was very similar, actually. They were sitting on the floor with the teacher. They had whiteboards and they were writing to different prompts that they
Okay.
had been given. But it was kind of a guided writing situation, where the teacher guided them through. One was, using your senses to describe something. Um,
Yeah.
and then they were sent back to their seats to work on that in their own writing books, and they could change their story if they wanted to. They didn't have to just copy what they had already written. So yeah, that's wonderful that I saw the writing. Let's see, I also saw some buddy reading in the intermediate grade classroom. So reader. I'm not sure how they were paired up, but it looked like they were almost paired up to be set up to help each other if they needed to, or
Okay.
one reader help the other. And I also, of course, saw choral reading at the emergent level. I don't think I saw any reading where the children were reading the text on their own. It was mostly choral reading. And then lastly, I'll just say, which of course, I mean, this doesn't surprise me, of course, being in New Zealand, but seeing just some wonderful examples of enthusiastic teachers. I mean, just one, especially the year six classroom I saw in the city, and and the year three classroom I saw in the city, as well as the other teachers at the rural school. They're very, you can tell they love what they do. Very lively, very, in tune with what is going on in their classroom and making sure all the kids are involved and participating and, just more of that community building.
Wow, very nice. I think teacher quality is a big impact factor. Not the program as much as it is the person delivering it.
That's right.
Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
so tell us some of the highlights of your presentation at the university.
Yes, that was really cool. Actually, I'm wearing my University of Auckland t-shirt.
All
Um,
right,
so I
cute.
had to get a t-shirt and a mug that I drink out of at work to remind myself of my fun times at the university. So yeah, I was fortunate to be invited there by Dr. Jan Gaffney. She's amazing. She has been in our field for a very, very, very long time. She personally knew Mari Clay. Um, she has been at the University of Auckland for 12 years, and she, yeah, just has done some wonderful things in reading recovery, and now works or is head of the Marie Clay Research Center there. Um, so I spent a full day there. She kept me very busy. And it was great. The first thing I did, I met with just a very informal setting in like a conference room at a table with a lot of literacy professors and professors of a couple doc students and professors of other teacher educators. And we talked about decodable texts. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so she wanted me to talk about that work a little bit because they're going through the same thing. They have their series of decodable books that are from the ministry that they use there. So I presented to them some of our research that we've done and looking at ubiquitous programs here in the United States and publishers and what we found. Um, that was, very eye-opening for them to see some of the examples I brought. And so we had some commonalities there, and with that we talked about like teacher professionalism, right? Like, um, if they're just given these books to read and they're told that they have to use these books, even though they might not be high quality, what does that do to
Right.
their professional work, right? And like you said, and their decision making and how they're viewed as professionals when they can't even make decisions. Uh,
Right. Right.
yeah, so it was a great conversation that we had in that setting. The next thing I did a more formal research presentation on interactive writing, which you and I have worked on, and so I presented a couple of those studies that have been published to some of the same faculty, some different faculty, and some doctoral students. Um, and and they had so many wonderful questions. And of course, the one question that came up that I was like, I don't know how to answer this was, with interactive writing, what about, with structured literacy and the science of reading, and how are teachers who are being, told they have to follow this very strict scope and sequence and the systematic and explicit skills, and then how do they fit interactive writing in with that, where you can have
Right.
more organic teaching and learning of skills.
It
And
seems like organic teaching and learning is like off limits
right,
now. Like
exactly.
it's a bad word. It's a
Exactly. Embedded instruction, organic instruction. Yeah, it's no, we're going to teach them this whether they need it or not.
right. And that seems more legitimate to people who are making decisions than
Mhm.
something organic or embedded, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they can't they can't understand that or understand how that
Right.
works. And again, that goes back to de-skilling teachers. How can
Yes.
how are new teachers, how are they supposed to do that? Well, they get to
Right.
know their kids as readers and writers, and then they teach them they build on what they know. But yeah, we've really gotten away from that. So that's, got me thinking about, because that's the question that's going to keep coming up more and more.
Correct. And
That
I think that's a question. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to
I
say it
think
just like clashes with my core, not just my beliefs and values, but my core, like what's at the center of my being and my central nervous system.
right. Yes.
That's so difficult to reconcile.
Yeah. And I think, as two people who research interactive writing and really value it as a practice, that is something that I feel is going to constantly be like part of what we're going to be coming up against constantly. It's
Yes,
not even so much like, why is it good? How do you do it? But like, well, why is this even legitimate right now? Because this isn't what anybody's talking about besides,
exactly.
yeah.
Besides those of us who know we shouldn't be
Besides,
talking about it,
right.
which is a very large group of us. That's why,
Yes,
yeah,
there's a lot of us,
huge,
correct.
it's a huge group. And yeah, and to me, it's the group of literacy educators. It's not, so yeah, anyway, a lot of things that I've been thinking about. Yeah, but yeah, the university, yeah, visit was absolutely lovely. The campus is so beautiful. They really, one thing about New Zealand that we do not do well here, they're very much in tune with their place, or they try to be. I think most people try to be, and they have I think two, maybe more, at least two that I saw, Marais on their campus, which is a Maori meeting place. They're the buildings with the um, little triangle entrance. And they started every meeting that I had there, they started with a I guess a proverb or a blessing in Maori,
Oh,
and they
nice.
translated it into English, and they were beautiful. I mean, I thought, man, we should be, if we started our meetings and our classes with these kinds of proverbs that talk about how important learning is, and yeah, it was just really, yeah, just really, really cool. Yeah, it's a great.
It's a really beautiful and insightful culture. They have a word for autism in Maori that is so
Oh,
beautiful.
cool.
Yeah, you should. There's a video on YouTube about it. I'll send it to you so you can
Oh,
see.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
definitely.
really beautiful. It's not just a word, it's like a concept. It's
Yeah.
really,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, it's really, really beautiful.
So, following up on that, what are some trends other than the move to structured literacy? Any other trends that you talked about or observed when you were there with the New Zealand Literacy Association, talking about trends in literacy?
Yeah, and that was a really cool thing that I got to do was and that came from LinkedIn, from someone who was associated with the New Zealand Literacy Association reaching out, seeing that I was going to be in New Zealand and we couldn't make an in-person meeting work. Of course, they're kind of all over the place too, but we met on Zoom. And one of the people is a retired professor from the University of Auckland that I had met in person at the university. So that was really cool. But yeah, we talked and talked and talked. We talked about a lot of things. We kind of settled on a couple things to talk about. One of them was AI. So,
Of course,
yeah, of
yes.
course. Yeah. So, we talked a little bit about AI and how we support teachers as they face a dual focus on traditional skills-based instruction, like structured literacy, alongside AI. They're exploring using AI to plan lessons, much like we are. Um, they talked about how they use Gemini as an AI tool, and it's not as open as other ones. It's secure within their school so that teachers and students
Okay.
can use it, yeah, safely, right?
Oh, neat. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're working on, more professional development and how to use it, because there are some who use it really well, some who don't use it as effectively, of course, and some who just don't want to use it. Um, but they've done things like they were talking about kids creating their own books and dictating their stories using their oral language, to create books, which I thought was lovely. And the New Zealand Literacy Association it really surprised me, for such a small country. They do such a lovely job. They have webinars and workshops and different things going on all the time. So they have an expert in AI, and I think she was going to she might have already done it. I think a webinar or workshop on using AI. So really just impressive group of people, and they have a journal called the New Zealand Forum that they
Oh,
publish,
okay.
and yeah, they just do so much, which, like I said, for such a small country, which shouldn't surprise me with, hello, most of the practices I've used in my teaching career have come from
Are from there.
or Australia, yeah, from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where they are. So we talked about that a little bit. Of course, we talked about artificial intelligence. We also talked about reading for pleasure. Um, so, they were talking about some different things they're doing, these story tours where they have authors and illustrators who travel by van. And
Oh, neat. I
yeah,
love that. It's
I
kind of
know, I
like a
love that.
throwback or something.
And
I don't know.
yeah, kind of some of the things we used to do in schools that I don't feel we do anymore, maybe even
Right.
don't do anymore. And even if we can't do it in person like they can, we can definitely, do Zoom and those kinds of things. Kids love to talk to
Exactly.
authors. Yeah. So that's really neat that they do those kinds of things. They have young authors conferences at schools, which is great. And we all just talked about the need to keep promoting these things and doing these things and keeping the focus on reading. Reading as in being a reader, not reading as in
Right.
decoding, which,
Decoding.
yeah,
Yeah.
decoding and separating reading out by all of these little requisite skills, but
Skills.
yeah, not talking about, being an engaged reader, reading for pleasure or reading for just knowledge
Or
or
the, yeah, any of the things that
whatever.
motivate a person to want to read, right? The thing.
Exactly. 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 So yeah, those were the two big ideas that we talked about. And then another thing we talked about that is something I'm kind of working on now is the whole just the notion of observation. So, we talk a whole lot about, the lessons, the lessons, the lessons, the lessons, but where does the observation of what kids are doing come in besides putting them on a computer and they take some kind of,
An
computerized
assessment.
assessment? Like, where are where are teachers watching what kids are doing and paying attention and writing it down and using it to teach? That's what I feel, or what scares me is disappearing, already disappeared, and how do we not let it disappear, and how do we get that back? So
Yeah.
to think
That
about.
is a very important part.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're just moving to the idea that's the antithesis of what we believe, which is you have a room full of kids who are all on the same exact level,
Yeah.
that are all ready to learn the same exact thing. And it doesn't matter if they are or not, they're going to learn it.
Exactly. And in the same way. Right? Learn
Yes,
the
and
same
in the
thing
same
in
way.
the same way. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, what a shame. So,
Hmm.
drawing from your discussion with publishers and professional development or PD developers, what did you learn about the status in the field of leveled readers, decodable texts, and teacher preparation?
Yeah, so this was really cool. So I got to do a couple cool things. Of course, my friend Rachel Walker, who is co-owner of Flying Start Books, her sister also Sarah Enzer. I met with them. I spent a lot of additional time with Rachel, and then her daughter Grace Walker, who is also works for the company, and just doing a lot of spending a lot of time talking about books and what they're doing with decodable books and those kinds of things. I also got to meet, which was an extreme pleasure. I met with Dame Wendy Pye. So
Ooh,
this woman is, she's amazing. She's been around a long, long, long time. She's still going strong. She started a publishing company years ago. She's responsible for Sunshine Books, which, even if that doesn't ring a bell to some people now, I bet if I showed you one, you'd be like, oh yeah, Sunshine Books. Um, they're we use those a lot in reading recovery, but they were also used in small group reading, and they're just wonderful. So I got to meet with her as well, and two people who work with her, and those two publishers are very much, and Rachel, well, Sunshine Books are Wendy Pie as well, but Rachel, a lot of their books are used all over the place. So some used in New Zealand. The professional developer I met with uses the Red Rocket, or the Flying Start Red Rocket Decodable Explorer books during demonstration lessons with teachers. But those books are also, they have a big US market and market in China as well, the Flying Start books. And both of those, of course, those companies are having to kind of shift from publishing leveled readers, which I believe they still are, to publishing decodable text. And they're doing amazing things with it because they are publishing books that are really engaging and more interesting than the cat sat on the mat kind of
Yes,
books, and
yes.
like some of the ones we looked at. And then Flying Start Books, and I'm going to look here so I get the title right. But if you go to their main flyingstartbooks.com, the first page that's going to pop up is they are coming out with go back, a new graphic novel series that,
Oh, cool.
yes, very cool.
I love that.
It's the Galactical Adventures of Buzz and Jip in this exciting new collection of authentic decodable texts. So,
Wow. At
yeah,
least they're trying to make it
that's
interesting.
right. They're like,
God
look,
bless them.
if we got to do this, we're going to make it fun for kids, right? So it
Yeah.
was just really a lot of fun to be with them and talk with them about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And they always want advice, and they always want to know, of course, how kids are reacting to and enjoying these books. Um, so yeah, that's what they're of course with the decodable text push, and with those being mostly what we're seeing in schools. That's what they're having to publish. Um, so yeah, that will be fun when those come out. I think in September, they said, and
Yes,
yeah, so that
that
will,
is exciting.
yeah, that's really a lot of fun. And then finally, I'll just say, yeah, I met with an amazing professional development provider, and um, she's fabulous. She's doing so many things there with teachers, with storytelling, with oral language, which they do reading and math, professional development all over, but just everything she told me about that they're doing, I was just like, wow, that's so cool. There are so many different pieces that she's doing. And she has noticed that, there are a lot of new teachers entering the field with a lack of knowledge related to reading processes. But one,
Right.
and like I said, she does so many things. So we talked about a couple, and one of the things we talked about was, how she uses the Red Rocket Decodable Explorer books to provide demonstration lessons for teachers on how to use them. And that excited me because I feel that's probably kind of missing here, is that
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
teachers have these decodable books, but they're not being told or instructed, whatever, how to use them. What do I do with them? Do I just give them
Right.
to kids? Do we read them together? Does it look
It's
like
part
guided
of
reading
the
platform?
scope and sequence, and they know when they're supposed to do it, but they don't know why or the reasoning behind it, right? They're
Yeah,
just, yeah,
yeah, exactly. Or how. Or how.
right.
Yeah.
How? Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes.
her name is Del Casello. Her name is Del Casello, and
Okay.
she just a pleasure. And I mean, all these people I met are people that I will, continue to stay in touch with. And
Oh,
even though
yeah.
we're half a world away, we're we're in the same boat.
Your network just got this much bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a quick question for you,
Yeah.
and then we can close.
Yeah.
So, when you're at the university there in New Zealand, do they have these policy changes where they have to teach reading methods a specific way, like we are moving to here in Texas and other states?
They're definitely, I'm not sure what the extent of it is yet there, just kind of like here,
Right.
where we're kind of,
Nebulous
yeah,
still,
a
but
little nebulous, but I know they for sure have the pressure because the schools are doing structured literacy. So
right.
it's kind of just, that's what they're doing. So I'm sure they're getting some uh
Yeah.
yeah, pressure too. But I think they're doing at least I read some articles by some of the people at University of Auckland and other universities there, and they are, they're pushing back against the ministry and some things that teachers are being told to do,
Well, good for you.
publication. So yeah, that's,
Yeah,
mhm.
good.
Yep. So
Well, thank you for
yeah,
sharing with us today about your
sure.
fabulous and interesting and trip to New Zealand. And I hope someday that I can visit New Zealand and
Yes, you
see
must. It
the
is
things.
it put it on your bucket list. It's so beautiful. Every minute of that trip was delightful. Every single minute, every minute. I mean, yeah, there's just the people are lovely, so many beautiful places and things to see. Hobbit holes.
Oh yeah, that sounds
Can't
like would be my favorite part.
can't forget the Hobbit holes. Yeah, and it was very hard to come back. Very hard to
I
come.
bet. But Buckley sure did miss you
Buckley
back
missed
there.
me, didn't you?
He
Yes,
was so happy when you came home,
he
I'm
did.
sure. He is. Hey, Buckley.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Misbehaving in Literacy and listening to Bethany Goes Down Under. So we will see you next time.